Hey everybody, welcome back to One Seed, One World. So I'm filming a couple of different videos today, hence the reason I am dressed the same as probably when you saw me in last week's video. But I'm doing a couple things on your autumn and fall type maybe harvest, things like pumpkins and butternut squash and that kind of thing. But today I wanted to talk a little bit about butternut squash and if you can eat it when it's green. You may, if you've grown butternut squash in the past, you may have noticed that while you get, a lot that you can harvest that gets that nice kind of beigey color by the fall when you can harvest it. You might have a lot of green ones left over as well that didn't quite get there before frost killed off the plant. So, can you eat those? That's what we're going to cover today. Are they any good? Are they edible? That sort of thing. So, with my butternut squash this year, this is where I grew them, not that you can really tell, but I started mine really late. I think it was mid to late June before I got them in, which was probably about 6 weeks later than what they should have been. And then after I planted them, they took a while for the seeds to sprout, and then we had that really hot summer where it was, like 108 degrees for multiple days at a time, high humidity, high heats. And so there was a lot of stress on my plants. And so what that did is I got a lot of male flowers instead of female flowers that produced the fruit. And I didn't really get any butternut squash this year because by the time they finally got to big enough to really start putting off fruit and the temperature finally dropped, it was too late in the season for them to really get anything going. I do have a couple out here. However, none of them really got that beige color. And I got this one poor little tiny one sitting up here, which has actually turned a little bit beige, but it's not very big. But I have one down here. Let me show you what I'm talking about. Okay, make sure I'm on the camera okay here. Okay, so I'll give you a couple examples. I mean, you see this is really pretty green, but it is starting to get a little bit of that beige color. This one is smaller, pretty much no beige at all. I mean, there's some yellowing on the bottom, and that's just because it was sitting like this on the ground and it didn't get any sunlight there. But it's not really turned much color at all. So for a good prime eating butternut squash, you want it to get that beige color. You want the stems to get brown and before you pick them, and then get them in before your first frost. And then you'll want to cure them for about a week or two, which is basically just laying them in an open aired area if you have some sort of screen to put them on. If you don't, I mean, you can put them on in the garage floor or something like that. Just turn them every couple of days. And what that will do is toughen up the skin so that they can store for a long time. And also it will increase the flavor of your butternut squash. Get that good sweet butternut squash flavor that they're so well known for. Now, when they're green, when they're super green like this, they're probably not going to be very good eating at all. They will tend to be more bitter and very starchy and not the best. When you start getting more like this where they have a little bit of beige on them, again, they will probably not taste as good. And you probably will not want to eat them the way that you would normally eat a butternut squash, like making butternut squash soup or baking it in the oven and then eating it with butter and sage and those kinds of things, right? Because they're still going to be more starchy and they are going to be, maybe have some bitterness to them, possibly, depending on how far along that you've got them. However, there are some other options. They are edible, but what you can do is you can skin them, get rid of your stems and the end and whatnot, and then cut them up and deep fry them and use them as fries. I've also seen some recipes where people did a tempura batter on them and fried them that way, done them in the air fryer, and then you'll probably want some kind of like dipping sauce or something like that for it to kind of enhance the flavor, since they will have a lot less flavor than your standard butternut squash that gets to full maturity and ripeness. So yes, you can eat them, but it's going to depend on how far along they got, on how good they're going to be. and it's going to take a different type of cooking to make yourself a meal out of them. But they don't have to go to waste. You can use them for different things. Have you ever used them when they're green? Tell me how you did in the comments below. One last thing is, when you have a fully ripe and mature butternut squash, once you cure it, they will keep for a long time. You know, their skin, the outside skin gets really tough, and that's what protects it so that you can store it in your basement or garage or whatnot throughout the winter. I had ones when I think it was in 2020, I ended up with like 75 pounds of butternut squash. And of course, you know, I was giving it away, and then I also had plenty for us to eat here, and I was still eating them up into the spring. They lasted fine throughout the whole winter, just storing them in my basement. When you are using them green, you're not going to be able to do that because they don't have the tough skins. You can pretty much, you know, pierce the skin with your fingernail, and so you're not going to be able to store them for a long period of time. Once you pick them, you are going to want to, you know, use them up probably within a couple of days or so, you know, no more than a week. Also, now I didn't do this because I'm just picking them today, but we have already had multiple frosts out here. And one night we even got down to 28 degrees Fahrenheit. The longer they're out here in that frost, and this is even the same with your ripe ones, the more they get hit with that frost, it's gonna put stress and potentially damage to your skin where they won't store as long. So you're gonna wanna try to get them picked and in some sort of storage area before you start getting hit with frost, especially if it's like a heavy frost. If it's one like a little light frost, probably no big deal. But once the frosts start coming in, you know, any of your winter type squash, pumpkins, those kinds of things, you want to get them inside, because the longer they're out in those extreme temperatures, the less chance you're going to have of them storing for a long period of time. So there you have it. Potentially edible green butternut squash. I hope whatever's going on in your neck of the woods is going great for you and that you are having a wonderful fall. But thanks for hanging out with me again here today, and we will see you again soon. I hope you have a great day. Namaste. I think I might go see if I can batter these up or something and see how they turn out.